So once again, welcome to this program on behalf of the college and on my personal behalf. I must thank Mr. Dr. Malaysia for inviting me to this FDP. I thank Dr. Vishnu Vandana for introducing me to all of you. And I also thank Dr. Sabita for striking the right note and setting the tone for the program. I'm very happy that she said some very relevant things so that my presentation becomes relevant to all of you for this 5-day FTP. Welcome once again. As you've already been told, the topic that has been suggested by the college, very relevant to the times now, is blended learning, the new normal. The new normal. Perhaps we'll focus on that during these 5 days while we are learning together on what blended learning is and how it's going to be relevant to us. I've broken the entire presentation into 5 parts to suit the 5-day program so that it becomes easier for us to approach it. So day 1, today, I'm going to discuss some of the basics of blended learning. Perhaps you've attended some of these programs already and you know some very basic things about blended learning, what it is, what's its history, how has it evolved over the years, and what exactly the concept of blended learning is. And tomorrow, the 2nd day, we're going to consider some tools and techniques that are available to us. And the 3rd day, we'll go on to consider what overhauling do we need as our methodology is concerned in relation to the methodology that we use in the class. Are there any serious big changes that we need to make? What modifications, what alterations, what changes do we need to make so that blended learning becomes possible, effective? And then the 4th day, we are considering some problems that might arise while putting into practice this blended learning concepts and what are some possible solutions. And at the last day, depending on the time available, we'll also look into the future, the possibilities ahead, and what is in store for us in the next few years. And there'll be a lot of interaction also on the 5th day. So this is how the structure is, and this is what I'm planning to do as far as this is concerned. I don't think this Google Meet allows me to read your chat, but maybe what you can do is you can write your a short name, not the complete name, a short name, and where you are from in the chat box. Malesh, can how do I see the chat box when I am at the full screen?
Yes, sir. In the above, it is there, sir. Above participants count. Beside of that, there is a chart with everyone is there, sir.
My slideshow is full screen, and I am not able to see anything except that.
So sorry to disturb. Yeah, we help you in reading out those chart responses, sir. Not a problem.
Sorry, please say that again.
Yeah, I'll read out for you, sir. Whatever.
Great, that will be really wonderful. That will be great. Yeah.
Peter from St. Joseph's, Hyderabad. Dr. Seema Sharma, Mathura. Arun from Hyderabad. Saraswati from CVIT, Hyderabad. Susan, MS Technology. And Madhavi from Hyderabad. Naveen from School of Pharmacy. Narendra, Tamil Nadu. ASO from BIT, Warangal.
Okay.
Saini from Mangalore.
Oh, there are a few from other states also, it seems.
We have news of it, Dr. K. Venkat Satish, and J. from Hyderabad, and Sita from Tamil Nadu, K. Lavanya, Hyderabad, Dr. T. Ramana, Chennai, Purna Kumar, Kodar, Mr. Balaji, Tamil Nadu, Subrat Chaudhary from Odisha, and M. Srinivas, Hyderabad, even J.V. Rangeshwar Reddy, sorry if I spell out wrong, J.V. Rangeshwar Reddy from Hyderabad, Lalita Kumari from Tanuku, and even PNVA Ravindra also from Tanuku, Dr. D.V. Chandrasekhar from Guntur, and another from Tanuku, G. Kanakadurga Rao. So this is what.
Thank you so much. Thanks a lot. Please keep helping me. I may ask participants to chat a few other things as well in the course of my presentation. So please help me continuously. Thanks a lot. And welcome once again to all the participants who are from within the state, from outside the state. I am sure you are different backgrounds, you have different experiences. You perhaps have come from management colleges and also other kinds of colleges. And some of you are familiar with these concepts already. Some of you are perhaps new to these concepts. So I expect that it's a kind of a heterogeneous group like any other group is. Okay, let me just quickly check this. There are a few concepts, some words that I have listed on the screen. Is there any word that you are not familiar with? Maybe you can choose one or two words and type in the chat box. Something that does not ring a bell. Something that does not sound very familiar to you. Something that you've perhaps not heard of. You need not write all of them, but maybe you can just say one or two of them. Or if you think that none of them is, known to you, you can just write all. Or if you're familiar with all of them, you can write none. Will somebody help me read out what the answers are?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, please. Are there any concepts that you are not familiar with?
Authorware.
Okay.
Deep Blue.
Right.
LCMS and Authorware. Blue.
Okay.
And Flash Script.
Okay.
LCMS, LMS.
Right.
This is only repeating, sir.
Okay. Okay. Right. Okay. Yeah. Why I asked you this question? This is very simple, actually. Maybe I'm absolutely sure that some of you are not familiar with these words. Of course, how familiar are you with these? How not familiar are you with these concepts depends perhaps on your age. Some of you are perhaps 20 years old, some of you are 30, 40, 50, whatever. So depending on your age, how long have you been into technology? How long have you been using any kinds of technology? How how related are you to teaching, etc., etc.? Depending on that, maybe you're familiar or not familiar with most of these concepts. Why I specifically ask this question is not to test your knowledge, but to tell you that most of these things that I show you on screen were very popular, and they were, words that were known to people very, very absolutely conversantly, maybe a decade ago, 2 decades ago, 3 decades ago, 4 decades ago, not centuries ago, right? Maybe a few decades ago. So the world has changed so much in the last few decades that already some of these concepts have become obsolete. Within a matter of 10, 20, 30 years, these words are no longer known to us. What was so very popular just a few years ago is already disappeared, already vanished. Now, there are concepts like this that are fast changing. And it is in this background we are going to consider what is relevant today, the new normal. What was not very popular yesterday is already popular today, but there's no guarantee that it's going to be popular tomorrow too. The technologies that are most widely, most proficiently, and most frequently, popularly used today, perhaps are not going to be there tomorrow and they are going to vanish. So the new normal is something that is current today. It does not mean that it was there yesterday. It does not mean that it's going to be there tomorrow, or perhaps it has already been on the way. Right? Something that started earlier and is the normal now, and perhaps is going to no longer be useful or relevant to us tomorrow. So the new normal is what is prevalent, what is being used today in current times. Okay, if you've seen my earlier slide and this slide, you might have noticed one difference. I have highlighted the first one. This is not relevant to what I'm going to teach you today, but this is one slide making technique. So you might have already expected that I'm going to use this slide at least 5 times. And every time I show you this slide, I highlight a different part of a different line of this slide. So highlighting that part, that means we are at that stage. In case you are using a similar slideshow, your students will know where you are. So this is a technique of creating slides. Okay, so we are going on to the first part now.
Sir,
The basics.
request, sir.
Ah.
In downside hide button, can you press, sir? Hide.
Yes, okay.
That. Okay, sir. Thank you.
Right. Okay. I can't see anything else except my slideshow. I have been using Zoom and other platforms, and I think I can use the side panel in which I can see myself and I can see the other videos. Anyway, it's okay. It's fine with me. Okay. Now this is an important question that I'd like to ask you. You need to answer me. If you ever ask yourself, right, as teachers, as individuals living in a modern society, as people who are comfortable using technology, the question is very simple. What e-learning footprints are you leaving? Right? Are you leaving any footprints behind? Suppose I search for you, I search your name on Google. Do I find anything useful? I mean, anything positive, right? So maybe you can do this experiment yourself. So you choose your name as one of the tag words and also choose maybe 3 or 4 or 5 other tag words. You put them all together on the Google search bar and click the button search, and then do you find anything that's useful to yourself, useful to others? Maybe other than the Facebook likes and dislikes, right? I mean, not that kind of things. I mean, I have 4 questions for you. The 4 questions are: have you learned anything online which I can find from a Google search? Suppose you have learned a few things like,
Sir, sorry to interrupt. Your screen is not visible, sir. We are unable to see the screen. Yes, sir. You can see
Just to pin is there, not just to press pin. Everyone participants who are unable to see the PPT, SAR name is there, no? There is a pin, unpinned pin is there. Just you press it, you are able to see the SAR screen.
can somebody try and tell me? Is it visible now?
Yes, it is quite okay, sir.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Malaysia, will you please tell them once again what do they have to do?
Name will be there. No, there is a pin option, pin unpin. If you pin, SAR PPT will able to see.
Okay.
And presentation pin will be there. If you click on that pin, the presentation will be stable. You can do that. And one more thing, why it is happening means there are few people who are sharing the screen and switching on the videos. So sincere request from us, please don't switch on the videos and don't present your screen. If you are presenting the screen, the resource person screen will not be visible to others. There is a major problem. That is the reason we are unable to see the resource person screen. So I hope you all understand and cooperate. And if you are unable to see that, ping it. Thank you.
Can you not disable that? Others sharing?
I think that will check, sir.
Maybe it's okay. Tomorrow we'll do that.
Yes.
So
Sir.
I think you can disable others from sharing their screens. Only one person can share.
Yes, that will check. Thank you.
Yeah. So tomorrow we can do that. Right.
Yes,
I think there is a little noise somewhere. Maybe you can mute yourselves. I asked you to keep your cameras on. You can see yourselves, but maybe you can mute your microphone so that I think everybody can benefit from this. Okay, so the first question that I asked you is, during this Corona lockdown period, or maybe during the last 1 year, or during the last 3-4 years, maybe since you became a teacher, post your studies, or after you got into your career, and then after you got a job, after you started teaching, and take any period, it's okay, no problem. Whether it's 1 year or 5 years or last 6 months, have you learned anything online? You need not answer the question me, you need not answer me now, but you just ask yourself, if somebody Googles me, if somebody searches for me, can they find what I have learned during the last few years? Why is it essential? It's essential because for two reasons. One, have I updated myself? Have I learned anything new to be a good teacher? Teachers are supposed to be lifelong students. Have I done anything to update myself, to upskill myself, to upgrade myself, right? To be constantly in touch with what's the latest. And also, if somebody searches for me, suppose there is a recruiter, I want to leave this job and join some other job, or within this job, within this kind of a job, I would like to get a better job. Maybe some university somewhere is searching for me. I don't know. Maybe some company is searching for the kind of people that I am. And if they search for me, can they also find out what I've learned in the recent past, in the last few years? If there is nothing that I've learned in the past, that's one problem. Two, even if I've learned something, but others cannot locate me as having learned those things, again, that's another kind of a problem to me. So is there a profile? Is there a corner? Is there some website where I am updating myself, where I am updating my improved skills, where I am refreshing my abilities, my skills? So have I learned anything online, and is that accessible to people? There are two questions within that. The second question that I would like you to ask yourself is, have you taught anything online? Of course, the lockdown was an excellent opportunity for all of us to go online, and many of us were forced into it. Some of us were not ready. Some of us were not willing to go online. But the lockdown situation, what was at the door, what was knocking at the door, became possible much earlier. Anyway, of course, it was to come, but it came a little earlier because of the lockdown. Most colleges, even government departments, have forced teachers, have made it mandatory for teachers to teach online. So in case you've started teaching online, what have you taught online? What courses have you created, right? Or are all these things visible on any kind of search? It need not be Google is an example, but maybe whatever forum, whatever platform that you wanted to put them on. Have you uploaded any audio video lessons that you've created? There are so many platforms again, right, where you can upload. For instance, YouTube itself, very popular. Everybody knows unlimited space. Right? You can, every lesson that you create, every single lesson that you create can be uploaded to, if it's a video, it can be uploaded to YouTube. If you have created a slideshow, for instance, you can post it on slideshare.net, authorstream.com, etc., etc., etc. There are so many platforms that allow you to upload your lessons free of cost. There's space available there, right? And if you have done them, right, I think you must congratulate yourself. Yes, there are 10 of my lessons available online. There are 2 of my video lessons, 5 of my audio lessons, right? These are the distinguishing skills I've learned. These are the positive improvements I've made, right? So in case you are leaving your digital footprints, you are relevant to current times, the new normal. So a person who is not leaving any footprints is not known to the world today. The world knows you through your digital footprints, e-learning footprints. If you are in the learning field, if you are a teacher or student, so your e-learning footprints are known through your posts on Google and other similar. As I told you already, it need not be always Google. There are lots of wonderful platforms available to us to leave our educational achievements. In future, perhaps there are not going to be any applications for jobs. Already, perhaps that's in force. People don't advertise jobs. They identify on their own. You don't need to apply. They will identify you. They will call you and they will tell you, we need you. So please do this. Begin doing this immediately. Coming to the history itself, I don't think I need to spend a lot of time on this, explaining this to you. May not be very relevant to you also, but in case you just would like to know what is the history of the technology in the field of education. Maybe long back in the 1840s, there was a gentleman by name Pittman. And what did he do? He was teaching that, what's that called? The shorthand. So he was teaching shorthand to students. So what he did, he did those shorthand lessons and postcards those days. And he sent the postcards to his students and asked them to send back postcards to him in reply, in response. Maybe shorthand to broadhand, broadhand to shorthand, like that. That was perhaps the first distance education course. How long ago? Maybe 1840, 1940, 2040, nearly 200 years ago. So that concept started. From there onwards, so we have the industrial age when there were computers. Once computers, were invented, naturally, the concept of education also underwent an upheaval, a big change. And the whole, I think you can take a screenshot of this and then you can see it later. So the time machines were there, then the computer age was there. Then e-learning, the new term was coined in 1999. That was only 21 years ago. In 21 years, how much transformation this concept of e-learning has undergone, I think all of you are familiar with. 21 years seems to be a very short time. But within 21 years, e-learning has completely changed the concept of education, concept of learning. The whole field of education has undergone a big transformation because of that. And we live in a world where information is the key, the golden key to success. This is an information age, and the community, in a way, it has become smaller, it has become much larger, and we are entering into a newer, a greater, a brighter, a better world, and we are at the crossroads. So today, e-learning is a $275 billion industry. That's bigger than the economy of some small countries, right? So such a big industry it has become. Maybe if you see this video, perhaps you will appreciate this better. So what I told you in the previous slide, the history of education, is easier for you to appreciate if you just see this video. Starting long ago. It's just a 2-minute video. Please watch this. Let's watch this. I think it will. Malaysia is the audio. Can audio be heard?
Yes, sir.
Actually,
Good.
No, sir, audio is not audible.
It is very clear to me. It is very clear.
What changes do I make to this? Maybe even okay if audio is not heard, but still you can appreciate it. I think it's not very difficult to follow it. Maybe tomorrow we'll change the settings.
Yes.
Okay, I think you have got an idea of how technology in education has changed over the years in the last several centuries. Before I move on, I just would like to tell you that mm, this video uh, was trimmed using a software called Bandicard. That's why you see it on the screen. So this is one video editing tool that's available to all of you. And in case you would like to download a video from YouTube and then you would like to cut it, trim it, and then do lots of other things, editing tools are available and you can use them and you can show similar videos to your students. There are two other links here, animaker.com and powtoon.com, which helps you create this kind of slideshows, videos. So you can create them on your own. I think you're already familiar with them, but maybe we'll come to them later in one of the future presentations. Okay, so that's one. Maybe this is another short video which tells us how the first teaching learning machines were used in the beginning, how they were, how unwieldy, how large in size, and perhaps how uncomfortable they were. And from there to the smartphones that we use today for almost everything that we need to do. So how that evolved. Again, I'm not going to show the whole of it, but maybe the first part of this. And you can see Mr. B.F. Skinner, the one who invented the first teaching machine. Just see this. This is another 1.5 to 2 minutes video. Okay, so that was a very short video on programmed learning. So machines being used for teaching learning. So that's how it began, and it has undergone a complete transformation. It has been completely overhauled over the years, and today I think it's available to us in a completely different format. Okay, now coming to why blended learning, and then why are we discussing these concepts? Maybe many of you who are here today have any one or some of these complaints, right? Often when I interact with teachers, when I go to colleges to address them, I often ask them, so why are you not able to get better results? Why are you not happy with what's happening in your class? What are some hiccups? What are some impediments that you have in the process of your succeeding as a very successful teacher, etc., etc. Teachers usually make these complaints. Sir, I need more time to finish my syllabus. Time is not enough. There is pressure of examinations, and there are other pressures, and that's why syllabus cannot easily be completed within the time that's available. And many teachers in many places, of course, I taught at the graduate level and for a very short time at the postgraduate level, never in an engineering college or a management college, but I know the problems perhaps are the same. So the students are different levels. There are some students who are absolutely useless, and there are students who are very brilliant. So to pitch my lesson, I don't know where to pitch my lesson. I don't know whom to teach, either this group or that group, where, right? So this is another complaint. Sir, there are lots of students who are terribly bad with their skills, terribly bad with their grasp, terribly bad with their language communication skills. and their background knowledge and lots of other problems. That's why teaching them is nearly impossible. And quite often I hear teachers saying, oh, sir, they are not interested in learning. I don't know why they are joining, why they are there. Right? They're not interested. Right? And of course, the ubiquitous complaint that you hear from almost everywhere is that students are not regular. They don't come to class. They are quite irregular. And what they hear today cannot be easily be connected when they come to college next time. And that's the thread is lost. And that's why it's impossible for me to do what I want to do. So these are often the complaints. When I hear complaints like this, I often suggest a solution. Is there anything that we can do with regard to the quality of the students that we get, the quality of the textbooks that we teach, the quality of the curriculum that we handle, the infrastructure that we have, the physical facilities that are available to students, etc., etc. There is hardly anything that a teacher can do in these circumstances. So let us not worry about what we cannot change. There are a few things that a teacher cannot change. Right? From our perspective, there are problems. Yes, sure. If the student is not regularly coming to class, that's certainly a problem. If the curriculum is not designed well, that's a problem. Right? A highly heterogeneous class is a certainly problem. So problems are there, but there are things that I have no control over. I cannot handle them. So let's not bother about them. But there are at least a few things that I can handle, I can change, I can improve. And one of those things is I can change myself. Nobody stops me. I can become a better teacher. I can upgrade myself. I can improve my skills. I can try handling things slightly better. I'm not worried about the students who are not coming for the time being. I'm worried about the students who are coming to my class. See, deliberately, I gave you a pre-assignment today. I posted it at 5 o'clock. That was deliberate. So at 5 o'clock, I posted the pre-assignment. The group was formed in the afternoon. I could have immediately posted that, but I waited till 5 o'clock, and 5 o'clock I posted. I think I received some 7 answers, 7 responses to my assignment before this program began. I saw it till about 5:55, I think. So there were 7 responses to that. So I think there are about 150, 160 teachers in the group. So look at it from this point of view, now the teacher's point of view. If there are 160 students in my class and only 7 respond to me, what do I do with that? Usually I complain, oh, there are 150 of you, why have you not responded to that? That's a very easy question to ask. But if I turn around and if I ask myself the same question, why did your question get only 7 responses? So is there a problem with you? Is there a problem with the assignment? Is there a problem with the time that you posted it? Is there a problem? See, immediately, as soon as I posted that pre-assignment, I think one teacher asked me, sir, this is not an editable format. This is not, this cannot be downloaded. And there were 1 or other 2 questions. That means I did not give them enough guidelines so that no questions need be asked. That means my assignment was perhaps not very well planned. My assignment was just posted, only 1 or 2 guidelines I gave. If I had given better guidelines so that no questions are possible at all, or no questions need to be asked, the students, even those who wanted to answer it in case they were not able to answer that, there is something wrong with the assignment. Maybe somebody suggested, sir, why did you not use Google Forms? Please post it in Google Forms. Right? And lots of other concerns. There were some 7 or 8 of them who responded to that. Excellent, brilliant. I also responded to them. I also gave them a word of appreciation. Now ask yourself why students are not actively engaged in your class. Why learning is not happening the way you expect it to happen. Why results have not happening the way you want them to happen. And among the answers, most likely one of the answers is the teacher herself, the teacher himself. Today, if only 7 people responded to my assignment, I am responsible to, in a large way. I cannot hold you responsible for that. Maybe you did not have enough time. Maybe I did not post it earlier. Maybe I did not make it easy for you, right? Or maybe, of course, you are busy and you are engaged in something else from 5 o'clock to 6 o'clock. Or I did not give it to you in a format that was easy to answer. So most of the causes, right? They point a finger to me. I am responsible for that. Now I need to look for something that makes it easier for students to participate. Is there something that I can change so that my students are more involved? My students are happier to participate. My students look forward to the assignments that they get. It's in this context we need to make changes to the way we are teaching, right? That's where blended learning is a newly developing concept that comes to our rescue, that makes our learning easier, more approachable, more accessible, and more interesting, perhaps more rewarding, and a lot more. So in that context, see how to get the student into the class, how to help the student learn. That's the whole idea, no? So if I teach and my students have not learned anything, so I cannot hold them responsible. I cannot call them silly idiots. They don't learn anything. They are incapable. They are this, that, etc., etc. So there is some problem either with me or with the methodology I am using, right? Or the tools that are available to me, right? Or the way I am teaching, etc., etc. So one of the things that's perhaps not going right is the methodology. And in case I make a small change to my methodology, especially in the current circumstances, my teaching will be much more effective. And one of the tools available to me, one of the platforms available to me is B-learning, blended learning. It's written many different ways. It's spelled many different ways. I prefer this B-learning, B with small letter and L capital, B-learning. Some people put a hyphen in between. Some people write B capital and L small. And there are other names also for that. So some people call it hybrid learning, blended or hybrid, mixed, flexible learning, technology mediated learning or instruction, web enhanced instruction, mixed mode instruction. These are various names, but the concept is almost the same. So blended learning, what is this? This is, as you can see on screen, a blending of at least 2 things. At least, underline that word, at least. There are at least 2 things that are blended. On the left side, you see the physical classroom, a teacher with students seated in front of her, and then there is a blackboard or whiteboard or whatever, and then the conventional brick and mortar classroom. And on the right side, there is a virtual classroom where laptops, mobile phones, technologies, laboratories, etc., etc. are used. Learning is happening. The student and teacher are not directly physically in each other's presence. Learning is happening on a virtual platform. And if there is a way, imagine there is a way, these two can be brought together, a golden combination, a judicious mix of the 2 things. If we bring them together and find that golden mean where this is possible, this is possible. Right? Learning happens online and offline. Part of the learning happens in a physical classroom and part of the happening happens in a virtual classroom. So if you can bring both the things together, that is blended learning. Simple. Like you make a blend of 2 fruits, 2 vegetables, 2 anything, 2 things. So it's a blend. The name is quite self-explanatory. So 2 or sometimes more than 2 or more things coming together in terms of learning in the environment of learning, that is blended learning. Right. So this is how it happens. There are various modes of them. We'll discuss them a little later. But so what's happening? So there is face-to-face learning here. There is online learning here. And we are making a hybrid of them. But these 2 words are most important to me today. One, things are not blended just like that. You don't put one thing here in any proportion you like, and then you just say, okay, because I am doing both of them, it's happening. I mean, blended learning is happening. No. There are 2 qualifying conditions there. One, it is deliberately done, not happening by chance. Right? Just because there was a physical class and after some time there was a virtual class and the student went to the laboratory and learned something on one's own and the teacher took a class and then taught something. So it does not qualify as blended learning. Blended learning is a deliberate effort on the part of the teacher, on the part of the curriculum designers, on the part of the materials producers, on the part of the methodology designers, right? Deliberately put together. So the teacher or maybe somebody above the teacher, the one who is designing the curriculum, thinks, oh, if I do it this way and this way, it's good. It is more effective than teaching using only one of the 2 methodologies. So that deliberate effort, that conscious effort has gone into the combination of the 2. Then only it becomes blended. And second qualification is it must be an effective integration. I must constantly be checking whether it's working this way or not. If it's not working, I must be constantly willing to make changes. So it's a dynamic process. So because I blended them yesterday like this, they worked fine, I am continuing. I blended them this way, they did not work, they did not give me the results that I expected, so I am further making a change. It's like, I mean, creating a vaccine, creating a drug. So, I mean, you can just imagine how much research goes into creating a new drug, a new molecule. It's not an easy process. How many different kinds of combinations, how many kinds of different dosages they need to test, how many people have to volunteer to get tested, and what kind of process they need to go through to arrive at that final result. The same way, it's an effective integration after a lot of thought has gone into this. Not just putting 2 things together. Please remember that. Sir, 6 months I teach them online, 6 months I teach them offline. I'm doing blended learning. No. So even if you are doing 6 months this, 6 months that, there must be a reason behind it. Why have you done? You must know. Yes, sir, for this reason, I have done it like this. So it's deliberate and it's effective. And it is to support learning finally. Okay, so the most important reason why we are thinking of this new normal, this new methodology is there are different learning styles. Students are, I mean, I think I don't need to go into those details. Students learn different ways. Some learn better when they see things. Some learn better when they hear things. Some learn better when they do things. In case there are any teachers who have done their B.Ed, they know all those technical terms. The audio kind of learners, the video kinesthetic kind of learners, and so many others. Right? So various learning styles, various learning preferences. Some students perhaps learn to read during the night. Some people prefer to learn in the morning. Some people may read a book sitting in the chair. Some people may read lying in the bed. I mean, people have different kind of physical, emotional, social preferences, right? Now, I mean, not just the classroom situation, learning backgrounds, opportunities, all these things are completely, I mean, multiple kinds of them. And in case there are different learning problems, the solutions also perhaps should be different, no? So I cannot give the same drug to everybody. If I have invented a drug, just because somebody has the same symptoms, I cannot administer the drug. There is a little more than just reading those symptoms. It's something more. Maybe, for instance, for example, a person may be already immune to a certain drug. Somebody may be allergic to a certain drug. So we have to take lots of it. Maybe if you are a diabetic, you cannot be prescribed a certain drug. If you are old, perhaps you cannot be prescribed a drug. Like what's happening in the pharmaceutical industry, the same thing is happening to this education industry also. The classroom also is a very highly heterogeneous mix with so many different kinds of students, with so many different kinds of backgrounds. And that's why we need to think of an appropriate combination of multiple methodologies, multiple ways of adding and combining things for the best advantages that we can get. So research has told us, I'm not telling you, research proves that when learning becomes blended, when students are given an opportunity to learn multiple ways using multiple platforms, physical as well as virtual, outcomes are better. Research has proved that already, because blended learning is not new. That's a new normal, but it's not new. It has been there for some time. And it has given better outcomes. Research has been done. Hundreds and thousands of students have been examined after their outcomes have been tested. Right? There is a strategic technology integration. Technology is not just taken from the market and used, but there is a beautiful integration of that. I'll just give you one simple example. There is what is called seat time. Suppose you have a college which has 500 seats, right? And you can maximum admit 500 students and impart education. Suppose the same infrastructure can be used twice. Suppose you have a day college in the same building and an evening college in the same building with the same infrastructure, with the same computers, with the same equipment, etc. Perhaps double that number of students can be taught. Now imagine a different kind of a situation where students have to come to college only for 2 days a week. Monday and Tuesday, one set of students come, and Wednesday and Thursday, different set of students come. So the seat time multiplies. You can impart education to the unreached sections easier. This is, I mean, I'll go into those details a little later, how to do that and all that. But there are techniques and technologies that make learning possible and reach more people by integrating technology very strategically. Then various styles of learning can be made. And most important, there is an ownership on the part of the student. The student feels, yes, I am my own master. I learn my way. Maybe I don't have to go to college the same fixed time. I can choose to go when I want. I can write an examination when I want. I can learn at my own pace. I mean, a very simple question. Why should not a student take an examination anytime he wants? Why should there be a condition that all students must appear for an examination only in the month of March and then pass that examination the same way? Suppose one student comes to you within 1 month after the course has begun and says, Madam, I have finished the course. You can take the examination today. Within 1 month. Right? Instead of 12 months, waiting for 12 months. And suppose the student tells you, why should not he be given an examination and he should be given certification so that he moves on to the next level? Is that possible? Yes, blended learning makes it possible. So people can access courses, people can go through courses at their own pace, choose their own interest. The new education system takes care of some of these, right? People choose any combination of courses, study at their own pace. One may take 10 years to do that course, one may take 10 months to do that course. And I think some of you answered my assignment, and I asked you what are the online courses that you've done. Some of you gave answers there, right? In case you've already done some online courses, you know them. Of course, online courses are not completely open even now, but maybe there is a future where I think they'll be still more open and people can just enter, exit anytime they want, learn as much as they want at their own pace, at their own place, and their own path. They take their own path, they go at their own speed, and they can do a course from where they are at their own place. Okay. So I'll maybe stop here because perhaps we'll have some time to discuss. I'll leave some time for interaction with you. What we can do is maybe you can post your questions in the chat box and somebody can read them out to me, and we will discuss those questions in the light of what I have told you today. So the background, the concept of e-learning, the advantages of e-learning, and maybe a little, I did not tell you much about the history, but I just gave you an idea of how it evolved. So the background to e-learning. So I'll stop sharing here, and maybe you can tell me in case, I think, I don't know, again, I'll come back here, I think. Right, yeah. Okay. Screen is still visible.
Sir, there is a query from Kodumuri.
Yeah, please.
Do any research has done on e-learning? He's asking.
Yes, a lot has been done. Otherwise, this would not have been possible, no? So any development today in any field happens only after due research. I mean, enormous research has been done. E-learning is one area where perhaps most of this pedagogic research has been happening. I think hundreds of theses have been produced on e-learning already. Otherwise, it would not have been so very successful. The whole world uses e-learning tools today, e-learning technologies today. I mean, for instance, how much of each, how much of this, how much of that is something that can be decided only after due research. So there are controlled groups, there are, things are administered, classes are taught, outcomes are evaluated, assessments are made, and then only people come forward with their suggestions. So a lot of research has been done. In case you are interested, perhaps you also can do a PhD. You can also undertake some research in the field of e-learning because there is plenty of scope here. Yes, please.
Sir, there is one more from Raman P. So asking that how will encourage self-learners and empowered learners?
I think this is nothing to do with e-learning, but in case you want to be a self-learner, I think you already know what you need to do. If you want to be a self-learner, all that you need to do is tell yourself the need, the importance of learning, motivate yourself, right? Acquire all the tools that are necessary, access them, and of course, choose your speed depending on your motivation level, and also go ahead. And empowerment is something that is coming from outside. It's not self motivation. It is an empowerment that's happening. Somebody is empowering, somebody is giving you the tools, somebody is enabling you to do something. If that's the difference that you are looking for. Maybe, or in case you are looking for something else, you can rephrase your question.
Sir, there is one more query from Professor Anita. Professor Dr. Anita Rolla. She is asking that, sir, should we try to understand the students' learning style before we teach online?
Yes, of course, certainly. It's absolutely essential, because whether it's online learning or offline learning, unless we suit their requirement, would suit their styles, our learning, our teaching is not going to be very effective. So maybe very soon we'll have tools and technologies available to learn the learning styles of your students. Maybe they are already available also. Perhaps you can conduct a kind of a survey, for instance. So what kind of learning styles are they? How many of them are visual learners, for instance? So does your lesson have some visuals, some audio components, some video components, right? Some assignment where they have to do something on their own, some physical work. Of course, I mean, there are some limitations also, I agree, but there are possibilities that can be explored. So if you meet all the styles, if you have a little video, if you have a little audio, if you have a little body language, if you have a little physical assignment, maybe a little music, right? You are catering to multiple learning styles. What happens in the classroom, physical classroom, is relevant in the virtual classroom also. The student has not changed. Only the medium has changed. Their live learning styles have not changed. Only the platform that you are using has changed. So what is true in the physical classroom is true here also. In fact, it is much more necessary here, because you're not physically seeing them. There is a limitation of the physical touch, and distance is a problem, right?
Yes, sir. So one more query from Subrat Chaudhary. So related to same virtual class, he's asking that how to motivate the weaker group of the class on a virtual class.
Yeah, I think you might have seen some of the little techniques that I've used today. Maybe there was an icebreaker. Maybe there were a few questions here and there. Maybe the chat box was opened and you were asked to interact. And then the weaker student has to be constantly pushed into doing something and supported. I mean, in fact, again, whether it's a physical class or a virtual class, the problem is the same. So the problem is handling multiple levels, multiple abilities. Even if you go to IIT and teach there, the class is bound to be a heterogeneous class only. Whichever group, whatever kind of, within the family, it's heterogeneous. If you have 2 or 3 children, maybe I think they're not equally capable. Right. So because there are a few weaker students, you have to constantly, for instance, the pace that I am using today. Maybe there are some bright teachers among you who are finding me very slow. Oh, why this is so slow? Well, maybe there are some weaker students, weaker teachers who think that I'm going too fast. Oh, already you finished this. So it must be finding the golden mean. That's where my success lies, the teacher's success lies. So, I mean, taking care of the brighter students and at the same time, right, pushing the weaker students and giving them parent-like support is what makes a teacher successful.
Right. So one more query from Subramanya Bharati, asking that what are all the essential components of e-learning package that a teacher should start with?
Maybe I'll come to that in one of the future classes, but maybe to begin with, I think if you are looking at the technology tools and all that, you must be familiar with the platforms. For instance, today I am using this Google Meet for the first time. I have used, Cisco, I have used Zoom, I have used GoToWebinar, GoToMeeting, and lots of other tools. But maybe not many colleges have used Google Meet. I think this college has made an experiment. So I had to learn a few things like that. You have to begin with these e-tools. You have to equip yourself with them. And once you know these platforms, once you become familiar with them, and also, I mean, when there is something that you are not very comfortable with, perhaps there is always a way to equip yourself that, for instance, today somebody said the audio was not heard. So instead of immediately, I mean, getting nervous or maybe immediately, struggling with that, maybe I can always learn that in course of time. Of course, it's always better in case I'm already equipped with that, but there is no end to that learning. So what tools do you need depends on what platform you are using, what skills your students are already equipped with, what kind of environment that they are in, what are they familiar with. Suppose none of my students is familiar with something that I'm going to use, my objective will not be met. So first I have to equip myself, and I also have to ensure that my students are equipped with. In the olden days, if students did not bring textbooks to the class, that was a problem. The teacher had the textbook, the students did not have the textbooks. Now, if the students do not have technological tools, if they do not have smartphones, if they do not have laptops, that's a problem. So first, I have to ask, the first question that I need to ask is, what tool I am going to use, right, to deliver my presentation. And that, for instance, I am going to use a PowerPoint slideshow. I must be absolutely comfortable with that. I must be able to. If I cannot create a PowerPoint slideshow, I must at least know where I can get it done, who can help me. Sometimes I have some bright ideas, but I don't know technologies. There's nothing wrong with that. So a teacher can always approach a person who can help. And also, of course, maybe while you are making the presentation, you must at least know how to advance a slide, how to zoom into a slide, how to make your slides a little more attractive, what colors are good, what colors are not so very appealing to the eye, what sizes are, etc., etc., etc. So the tools that you have to be comfortable with, that you have to be conversant with, depend on the tools that you're going to use. Yes, please.
Yes, sir. One more question from Suma T. She was asking that for online learning, like for academician, is the online teaching is effective for problematic and drawing and programming subjects for professional courses?
Yes,
Her
please.
doubt was, yeah, online learning is suitable
for. More convenient. In fact, it's more convenient because arts subjects, humanities can be taught in a physical classroom as effectively anyway. Right? A physical classroom perhaps is enough. A history textbook can be read sometimes even without a teacher. And if the student is bright and the student is self-motivated, I mean, one can access like it's happening in a distance education course. But in the case of technical courses that you're talking about, it's a great platform that's available to us. For instance, I want to show them a simulation. That's perhaps not possible without technology. Now, because I'm using a technical platform, I can show that simulation. Now, I showed the historical overview of the development of online tools, right? So that video perhaps made, it easier for you to develop an idea of the historical development of that. So like that, anyone who is teaching a technical subject, because the world is full of tools available today, full of resources available today, will certainly be benefited.
Yes, sir. Mr. Sannyasi Rao is asking that according to some survey, only 30 to 40% of students are receiving fruits from online classes. How can we justify the system is an alternative to existing system?
I don't know comparative statistics. I don't know where you get this 30%, but even if it were true, suppose it's 30%, I don't know what were the outcomes in the previous traditional system. How many dropouts were there in the traditional system? How many people did not learn? They sat in your physical class. I don't know. Maybe there was one a similar yardstick used to measure the outcomes in physics. Only when you compare, you know which is better, which is not. And blended learning is not virtual learning, remember. Maybe what you're talking about is virtual learning. Blended learning is the best of the both worlds. So there is going to be something that you have already been doing, the physical class, and there is an additional element, an extra element built into that. Part of the education happens physically, part of the education happens online. Maybe I'll give you some more details tomorrow, but I just would like to tell you that we are taking the best of the both worlds. If you believe that the traditional class was better, we are not disregarding that. We are not saying that, oh, that does not work. We are ruling it out. We are going to use only this. No. Blended learning is, the most beautiful thing about it is it retains what is good in the past and uses what is good in the new.
Right, sir. So the another question is actually it's a very huge problem and a common problem, I think. So Dr. Seema Sharma is asking, all students not able to avail e-learning due to internet, lack of smartphone, laptop, what to do?
I think I indirectly asked this question, answered this question already. See, as a teacher, we have a limited responsibility. Our responsibility is to ensure that the student who has come to me, the student who has approached me is benefited. There are problems that I cannot resolve at my level. I cannot buy a smartphone to every student of mine. If I can buy one or two, maybe if there are two bright, very poor students in my class and I would like to help them, that's a different story. But I'm not going to equip them the technical tools that are quite expensive, or maybe it's not only a question of expenditure, but maybe various other reasons. There is somebody else who is taking care of that. Maybe your principal is thinking about that. Maybe the education ministry is thinking about that. Maybe government of India, government of Telangana, or some other government is thinking about that already. See, we are not trying to solve a problem that we cannot solve. There is somebody else doing that already. Maybe, there is some big brainstorming happening, how students must be equipped with. Maybe very soon that will happen. Like you see in social welfare hospitals and schools today in Telangana, everybody is equipped with everything that they need, starting from shoe polish to, their education. Everything is provided to them. That's one section. Now, tomorrow, once the government realizes that these mobile phones or laptops, etc., etc., I think some of you might have seen triple ITs, like the one that we have at Basar in Telangana, like Newsweek in Andhra Pradesh. So what have they done? They have provided most sophisticated, most up-to-date technologies to all those poor students. And the day is not far. Perhaps the government is already thinking. So let them take care of that. Don't worry about that now. You worry about the students that have access to what you are teaching them. It's this, whatever you do best. Whatever you cannot do for the time being, ignore. And if you want to be socially aware, socially conscious, you can always write a mail, you can always give your suggestions to governments, you can always send your suggestions to people around, you can publish in newspapers, you can write an article. What can be done? Maybe cheaper, easier tools are very soon, they'll be in the market as more people are using them. Easier technologies will be available.
Yes, sir. I think time almost 7:28. I think still many people are giving the responses. I would like to take the last response from here. That is Kamalakar Rao. So he's asking that when teaching online, we are unable to gauge the students, means control the students as they use Google to answer the quizzes.
Yeah. So what does that mean? That means I need to think of a way where using Google should not be a problem. So maybe there was a time when students' memory was tested. Today, I mean, memory need not be tested. There is something else that can be tested. Maybe, in fact, you have to promote students using Google. So you can tell them, okay, go to Google, search, find out, and tell me the answer. So using Google also is not an easy thing, no? I mean, the question should be framed in such a way that they cannot just type the question and get the answer. See, the difference is, for instance, how many participants are there attending this program today? So what do? Just look there and say, okay, there are 66 people live attending the program now. So that does not need any common sense. That does not need any, there is no challenge in that question. Anyone who can see that can answer that question. But suppose I ask you, why have you decided to attend this program? You cannot copy it from somewhere. Google does not tell you, no? Google cannot give answer to that question. So I have to frame my questions in such a way that the student has to be still original, application of knowledge, application of memory, and analytical skills, and lots of other critical skills can be examined.
I think we have to stop, sir. It's 7:30 because there is a long road away, ahead for us. So the 4 more days we'll keep on discussing these all things. So in this regard, first, thank you so much.